Now we have the more of a standard modern kit. We have more channels because we're using an Apogee Ensemble, and it has 8 inputs. It actually has 10 inputs, so we're using the 2 guitar inputs on the front panel with impedance transformers. We're using those front panels for the overhead mic. This is a stereo Royer ribbon mic. It's actually 2 figure-8 patterns. It's just a wonderful, smooth-sounding mic. It gives you an incredibly realistic, very wide picture of the drums. It's almost like you could actually just record the drums with that and a bass drum mic, and you get a pretty nice sound. I just put it sort of right over the snare drum and in between the toms. A lot of live guys, a lot of front of house guys use these types of mics. The Sennheiser 604Es, they're clip-on mics, so you don't need any mic stand, but they're very good. I mean, the classic tom-tom mic, the Sennheiser 421, and this is very similar to that. It's a bit different, only it doesn't require a mic stand. And you can see here, if you can get a close-up on it, it has a little adjustment as to how high you can set the mic. I have it at the very highest point, because if you get it too close, you get a lot of attack and very little of the body of the drum. You don't get much bottom end, and I like to get as much power and bottom from the tom-toms as I can get, so I put it right up high. The hi-hat mic is a 452, you could a 451 or a 460 AKG. They're all very similar. As you can see, I have it not at the edge of the hi-hat, but more towards the center. And this is because if you have it too close to the edge, sometimes you can actually get wind noise from when the thing's opening and closing, and you get a lot of bottom end, which is sort of false. I mean, hi-hats, if you listen to a hi-hat in a room, you don't hear a lot of low bottom end. You really want to hear that crisp top end, and so more towards the center, it works better for that. Snare drum is just, once again, just a regular SM57, which is my favorite. It's about an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches off the top of the drum, just a little bit past the rim, and that gets generally a pretty good sound. There's also a 57 underneath the snare drum to get the sort of snare sound. With that mic, it should always be out of phase with the top mic, because the 2 heads kind of move in sync with each other, and so the sound will be positive to the top mic and negative to the bottom mic. So to get more bottom end out of it, or more mid-range, you're going to want to put the bottom mic out of phase. I'll also, in the mix, I'll usually take the bottom mic and overly compress it with a fast attack and a fast release, and then add a bunch of top end to get it so it doesn't sound crunchy, it sounds more sort of top end snare-y sounding. The bass drum, I've gone back to the Shure Beta 52, and as you can see, it's inside the drum. It's not directly at the hole, it's actually inside the head to prevent too much wind from hitting the diaphragm. This has more of a high-end, more of a 5 to 8K attack on it, so it's more of a clicky kind of sound, which is more of a modern sound. We come to our room mics, which isn't always necessary. It's just a nice additional thing to have. I'm using these U87s. These are actually in Omni at the moment, and so they're picking up the entire room. They're picking up direct sound from the drums, and they're picking up a lot of reflected sound. Sometimes if I really want a bigger sound, I'll put it in cardioid, turn it around and face it up, actually face it towards the ceiling. And so it's really just getting indirect sound, because you're getting all your direct sound off the close mics.
Yeah, for this one, we have more of a modern drum kit and modern tuning. Punchy kick drum, so double-headed with a whole little muffling in it. The toms have clear heads, so there's a little more attack. And the snare drum, the same head as the other kits, but it's a coated Emperor with some tape to cut down on some of the ring. And I definitely lay it into this one a little bit more, because the mics are, you can control the sound, so I can actually bash the cymbals a little bit more and not have to worry about balancing myself out too much. The cymbals I'm using are the same ones as the other kits that we use today, which just happened to be the Matt Chamberlain Signature series, which are on the darker side, which work well for a lot of stuff like this. And these are Craviotto drums, which are solid shell drums, so they have a little bit more bite to them, a little more attack.
You have quite a bit more control because everything's on a separate track, and so you have more actual control over the level of the toms as opposed to the level of the cymbals and level of the hi-hat. Each individual drum obviously is mic'd individually, so you can change the balance, whereas the thing with the 4 mics or the 2 mics, you're kind of pretty much stuck with that. I mean, you can change the level of the snare drum, but it's pretty much an overall, what you got is what you got. With this, you really, because this has become more of a standard way of miking drums now. Once you get to the mix, because you don't really know when you record a basic track or you're just recording drums, unless you already have the track finished and you're overdubbing drums, you don't know what the overall thing, and even then you don't know what the mix is going to sound like, and you don't know how it's going to integrate in your final mix. And so it's good to have all that control over each individual part of the drum kit, because drums are pretty important in pop records. And so for most records, it's a better way to go, even though maybe characteristic, it's not as interesting sounding sometimes, because you get that big Bonham sound. It's like, wow, that's really cool. But then, okay, try to mix that in, and records aren't as sparse as they used to be. Nowadays, you got unlimited numbers of tracks, and people tend to use them. And it's very hard to get a real basic drum sound to cut through. Sometimes, you want to be able to have control over the levels of things.